Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who has helped me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Natalie Riede, who describes to us how she overcame the mental aspect of being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Her doctors told her she had a very limited time to remain living. She, for a period of time, accepted that diagnosis until she thought, this may not be the case. Maybe I can somehow, some way survive this through a white cell transplant. She did, in fact, overcome the cancer and is now living a very vibrant life. And she's now empowering other women, others who are in a cancer situation or anything else in life where they're uncertain how they can progress beyond. Marty, what are some takeaways our listeners can gain from Natalie?
This was a fantastic podcast. Natalie had so many takeaways, but I will give just one because this is worth listening to even a couple of times, 3 times, because she is so good. She says you are what you consume, which means what you eat and also what you think. The negative or the positive will become who you are.
It's a great story of how to overcome and gain the best of life. She is now passing forward her life lessons. Let's listen and learn together. Natalie, it's great to have you with us. Our listeners are going to be very interested in learning how you have overcome some very traumatic events in your past, one of them being cancer and some other things, but you have learned how to, I'm going to use the term, deal with the past, have a positive mental mindset, and how to move forward in spite of what we may be experiencing at the time. You've learned how to deal with the subconscious, which to me is very important because my life experience is, and some people have demonstrated, that whatever exists in the subconscious, that the negative part, can become a dominating influence to our conscious mind. But we're very interested in your thoughts. Natalie, welcome aboard. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to be here and share my story with your listeners.
Natalie, can you just briefly share with our listeners what you have been through? And it seems to me you are leveraging the very best of, let's say, a difficult past in making the very best of that going forward.
For sure. 31 years old, out of the blue, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. And I mean, it was really out of the blue. It took me by surprise. I actually live in Germany, and at the time I had only started to learn German. So when the doctor said that it's Krebs, like I knew enough of the language to understand it was cancer, but the rest of it just kind of like went over my head. And I looked at my fiance's face, he was in the room with me, and it's only by watching his reaction that I realized, okay, well, oh, this is serious. That was 4 months before our wedding. And so we decided that we would postpone the big ceremony, but just have a small registry office wedding. So I had surgery. I had 10 centimeters of my intestine removed. And when I woke up, I was very surprised to have an ileostomy, which is a stoma. If you don't know what that is, it's when they cut a hole in your stomach and pull a bit of your intestine out and stick a bag to you to collect the waste. And that's, of course, to allow like the surgical area to heal. But I didn't know that was going to happen. So you can imagine I woke up with this bag filling with waste. And I spent my 32nd birthday in intensive care. And that was right before the wedding. And it was a really tough time. And I struggled a lot in this time. I wasn't offered any mental support or any emotional support. And I basically tried to be positive, but I think I was doing that toxic positivity where I was faking everything, and I fell into a depression, and I was very angry. And then fast forward 6 months, I finished my surgery and my chemotherapy. I rejected radiation because the radiologist said that they would nuke my womb. And you can imagine, like, I was getting married. I wanted to have a family. So I said I didn't want to have radiation. I just did chemo and surgery. And then they reversed the stoma. And I was so excited because it felt like, okay, now I can start living my life again. I really had felt like I'd put everything on hold. I stopped going to work and I just went to my chemotherapy and I came home. And in my mind, I kept thinking, oh, when they reverse this, then my life will start again. And then what happened, due to complications from surgery, I developed a septic abscess, but I also experienced a 1 in a million reaction to a painkiller I was taking that completely destroyed my immune system. So I went into hospital after taking antibiotics that did nothing. And the next minute I was being wheeled into emergency surgery. When I woke up, I was quarantined in a room by myself. I woke up and you can imagine I saw a doctor walk in and in the full gear, you know, the mask, the gown, the gloves, the booties, in like a sealed room. And they said, you know, you almost died and you've got no immune system and you've got a septic abscess. And there's nothing we can do for you. We're going to transfer you to a different hospital. And that was it. I moved to a different hospital, and the first thing my new doctor said to me is, you're probably going to die and there's nothing we can do. We just have to wait and see. And that to me was, I hit rock bottom, really. My identical twin sister was living in China at the time, and she flew over in case I needed her bone marrow, like if there was something that could be done. My mum flew over and she was caring for my granddad, who was dying from cancer. And I had battled cancer, and here I was in hospital, dying from something completely unrelated. And I planned my funeral with my mum. And we'd postponed that big wedding ceremony. And I asked to be buried. Sorry, I'm getting emotional talking about it. I asked to be buried in that big wedding dress that I was never going to get to wear. And the funny thing is, what happened that evening when I was lying there, I don't know, like this voice just came to me. I felt this little spark of life within me that said, you are not done. This is not over. This is not how you go out. But if you want to live, you have got to change. And so the next morning I woke up and it's like I had this little spark of flame inside me, this little hope. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And so the next morning when the doctor came around, I was like, right, okay, I'm going to live. I've decided I'm going to live, and I'm going to go to America in 8 weeks for this massive trip that we'd planned. And the doctor's like, I don't think you've got your priorities straight. This is not we're talking about life or death. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But I've decided I'm going to live. And it was kind of miraculous. At this time, there was an experimental thing that they could do where they could find a match for me and use somebody else's blood cells to hopefully stimulate my own white blood cell growth. And my husband was a match. So yeah, so I had that and I recovered and I had to do physio and I started going to see a therapist. And that's kind of when I dove into the world of holistic health, of mindset, meditation, affirmations, hypnotherapy, you name it, I did it. Because I realized in that moment, I could die from anything. And actually having cancer didn't mean that I was going to die before somebody else. It just meant I was more aware of my mortality. And while I would never wish cancer on anybody, it has actually been a gift to me because it made me reevaluate my life. And I'm actually now happier since having cancer. And so 6 months after that, when I had a stage 4 diagnosis, because the cancer metastasized, I was in a much better space to be able to process that mentally because I had started developing the tools and the resources to actually be positive and access and process my emotions and really work with my subconscious and build up my emotional resilience. So yeah, that's kind of what started me on this journey. That's my experience in a nutshell.
Wow, Natalie, I'm very interested in just starting off in two aspects. One, it seems medical science, or at least the white blood cell part of this, maybe the doctors did not know about or something. And I'm very much non-medical. There was that part, and that I'm going to use the term, there was that discovery, and your now husband was the perfect donor.
Yeah,
That brought that about and brought the healing process about. And I may not be explaining this correctly, but then you had a positive attitude. And I have heard medical people say healing occurs much faster when the mental attitude is, I can, I will, I'm on the positive side of this. Did I process what I heard you say correctly?
exactly.
And certainly, please correct me if I did not.
No, that is exactly right. And it's so interesting that you mentioned that because having met other people going through cancer and other traumatic events, I realized in that time how powerful your mindset is. Because in that moment when I hung between life and death, I made a decision that I was going to be here and I threw my entire being behind that. I did everything that I possibly could. It wasn't just eating healthy, it was also thinking about what was going on in my life. So we all talk about you are what you eat. For me, you are what you consume. And that's not just what's going in your body, that's what's going in your mind. It's the people that you surround yourself with. It's how you talk to yourself. If you notice, if you're in a room with people, how people talk to themselves, they would never ever speak to anybody else that way. Oh, you're stupid, why did you do this? Like this internal dialogue that we have, it's so shocking to me. And I realized, like, with that positive mindset, how important working with my subconscious was. So I like to think of it as, like, if you think of your conscious brain, like picture an iceberg, your conscious brain is that iceberg that we see, that tip, right? But everything that's under the surface, which is huge, that is your subconscious. Those are your limiting beliefs. That's that inner critic. That's your learned behaviors and your bad habits that hold you back. And it's very easy when you've gone through something traumatic to slip into a depression, to play that what if game. Well, what if the cancer comes back? But what if I die? But what if this, what, and it's never ending. And so taking control of your mind, because you have that power, And you can flip the script in a way. Like I say to all of my clients, that you are the writer, the director, and the actor in this movie that's your life. And if you don't like what's happening, the great thing is you can change it. But that is quite triggering for some people because they have that power. And if they choose not to develop the tools and the resources to see things in a positive light, to have an attitude of gratitude, and they're very much in their victimhood, then I feel like that really hinders any healing or any ability to move forward with your life.
You seem to have what some people would say was an epiphany, meaning there was this moment that you mentally said, I hear something to the effect. I
Mhm.
hear what the doctors are saying. They're saying that it's all going to end fairly soon, but I choose to live. And you may have been thinking something like, I don't know how this is going to happen,
Mhm.
but I choose to believe I'm going to plan the rest of my life and I'm mentally moving forward. How I'm going to bridge this gap, I don't know, says Natalie, but somehow, some way, I'm going to bring all this about. And it did. You mentioned the word miraculous.
Yeah.
I'm picturing this, maybe even the doctor saying, Natalie, I don't know how this happened. It's beyond anything I can rationally explain.
Yeah. And I was at a university hospital. So they were actually calling in students to come see me. I had people interview me to do write-ups because obviously I also had my identical twin sister there. And so they were like, they just couldn't understand what was going on, how I could just recover. But I do think that we can think ourselves sick. If we are constantly saying, oh, I feel run down, I feel this, I feel that, then you can convince your body that you're sick. And if that is true, then the opposite is also true. Because what we think, like our brain, the way our brain works, it cannot tell the difference between reality or fiction, which is why visualizing and affirmations are so powerful, because you can step into a new reality of yourself. But if you're constantly saying to yourself, this is unfair, I'm sick, I'm going to die, I'm this, I'm that, then your brain's like, cool, more of the same coming right up, because that's all you're focusing on. And the first time I had cancer, I put everything on hold. I didn't make plans for the future. And of course, that signal that's sending to my subconscious and my body is, I'm not planning on being around. And as soon as I made that decision, I am still going to be here. I have a plan for the future that I'm working towards. I had a goal and a vision and a drive. Then I found that energy to go through my physio. I found that energy to get myself up in the morning. Because when you feel depressed, like the energy levels are just completely down, and you have spiraled into this dark space, and nobody can pull you out of it. Like, that is the truth. Nobody can pull you out. They can be guiding lights, but you are the one that has to get yourself up and put one step in front of the other. And that's kind of like why I decided to become a transformational life coach and clinical hypnotherapist. And I also do neurolinguistic programming, because my job is to take my training and my experience and give people the tools and be that beacon of light to help them move forward. That's what I do. I empower others to navigate their own cancer journeys, but any other trauma as well. Like I actually do health and anxiety, because it's all, it's all kind of the same thing. Yeah, that's kind of like my biggest takeaway from cancer and almost dying, is that we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we react to it. And that is where our power lies. And you can either be a victim or a victor, because cancer's happening either way. Like you've got no control over that. And like when the doctors told me, you probably won't survive. And I was like, cool, well, I'm going to. Or when the doctor told me I probably won't be able to have children, my fertility specialist had tears in her eyes. And yet I conceived my son first time. I was told he would probably have Down syndrome. He is perfectly healthy. So I have now a rambunctious 2.5-year-old, and I have a newborn. And I have a son and I have a daughter. And before we started trying for our second child, I went out and I bought the cutest little girl's outfit and I hung it in my wardrobe. And every day I looked at it and I said a prayer. I also believe in like law of attraction and that we can manifest our destinies. And I said a prayer and I put it out into the universe that I would welcome a beautiful baby girl to join my family. And I would visualize that every day. Boom, pregnant, second time. And I have 2 healthy children. And I was told that I would not be able to conceive or carry a baby to term. So for me, I know that there are some people in my life who think I'm a bit all woo-woo, tree-hugging, crystal-loving, barefoot earth mother. But I don't care because I'm literally living the life of my dreams. I'm happy, I am healthy, I'm celebrating 4 years, no evidence of disease, officially in remission next year. I have 2 beautiful children. I've moved into an amazing apartment. I'm using my experience to help people. I mean, I don't think I could give more proof to others that your mindset is key to moving forward.
You are exactly right. And I'm curious, did you, over a period of time, almost have to mentally segregate the positive thinking from the negative thinking people?
Yes. One of the things that nobody really talks about when you have cancer is you get ghosted by a lot of people because your cancer is triggering for others because they don't want to face their own mortality. And so they pull away from you. And then there's the other type of people who call them negative Nancy's. You would be amazed the amount of people that would come up to me and be like, oh, I know this person who had cancer. I mean, they died. I'm like, why would you say that? I remember going to work to visit to see my colleagues on an off chemo week. And one of my colleagues, I won't name names, but was like, you don't look sick. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry that I don't look like a typical cancer patient. Actually, having colon cancer, it's typical with treatment that you don't lose your hair. But at the time, I experienced imposter syndrome. I had stage 4 cancer. And yet, because I didn't look sick enough, like it just boggled my mind that I felt like I had to prove that I was sick. And it was only really when I had that near-death experience that I realized, like, okay, I have to put my own needs first. And I have space for people who enrich my life. And anybody else, I'm going to have to cut them out with love. It's not an anger thing. I do not believe in holding anger. Forgiveness is key to recovery as well, because I feel like when you hold on to negative emotions, you create an imbalance in your body, and that can also create ill health. So I can forgive you. I don't have to talk to you about that. I can practice forgiveness and an attitude of gratitude. But yeah, I actually have less friends now. And yet I am also, again, happier, because you have to put yourself and your happiness first. And that does mean protecting your energy. And it also means you need to practice self-care. So many people trying to pour from an empty cup. And for me, I think that you should be pouring from an abundance, an overflow of your life, because then you're giving from a place of love and energy rather than from a place of obligation and pain where you are draining yourself. Because if you are drained, how can you be healthy? And you'll be amazed how many of my clients who are exhausted going through chemotherapy are still concerned with being a burden to others, are still concerned about what other people think about them, who are putting their needs of others above themselves when they're in the fight for their life.
Natalie, I want to say I understand people say things, and I don't understand why they say them, but they do. But someone is listening to your story at a time when you didn't know the resources to go to. How did you find those resources? Because they're probably saying, where do I go?
Yeah, there is not a lot out there, I have to say. Like the first year I had cancer, I wasn't really offered any support. And the second time round, I was like, right, this is not good enough. And so I found out where I live in Germany, there is a rehabilitation center that you can go to. And that's where I discovered art therapy, dance therapy, nutrition, and meditation and hypnotherapy. There is starting to be a lot more out there to do with meditation and hypnotherapy. Like, hypnotherapy is amazing. Amazing. I just used it for giving birth to my daughter. Like, it's used in hypnobirthing as well. And I just learned a new submodality, which is EFT. I don't know if you know what that is. It's the tapping. It is actually, interestingly, one of the only alternative medicine modalities that is recommended for people with PTSD. It is amazing. So I would say, if you are looking for resources and you are going through cancer, definitely contact your healthcare team first. They're the first line. Get a therapist, a talking therapist, to help you talk with your emotions. Personally, what happened for me, I had a talking therapist, and that really helped to open the doors. But for me, neurolinguistic programming and hypnotherapy were kind of what changed for me, because they help you process your emotions and be able to move forwards, where a talking therapist goes through that trauma with you. And for me, like, you're kind of living in that pain, and it takes a while to process it. Where with NLP and hypnotherapy and meditation, you're going directly into your subconscious, where you can view that pain that you experienced from a different place. So you're not like in it directly, you are detached from it. And we can scramble the neural links to that past memory so that you can still remember it, but you're not reliving the pain. NLP is amazing. I had a session done and I walked past the room that I was diagnosed in, and I felt nothing but gratitude, because that is where they found my tumor, and that is where the start of my healing journey began. Where before I had NLP, it would trigger me and I would have a full-on meltdown. So there is a lot out there, definitely online, that you can access meditations, hypnotherapy. I actually have created an amazing free resource. I call it the Ultimate Cancer Recovery Workbook. It is jam-packed with all of the exercises that I used myself, my affirmations, the cognitive behavioral cycle, and I've also got a bonus guided meditation in there, where people can access an oasis of calm, where they can feel their emotions and release them. Because I think that is key, right? We push down our emotions, and we push them down and we push them down, and we don't feel them, and we think that that is the way forward. And actually they are bubbling under the surface, just ready to pop out in a fit of rage or a meltdown, whatever it is. And for me, feeling your emotions, allowing them out, is again also key to your recovery and your mindset, because you're not using all your energy to repress anything. So that is a free resource that I'm giving out to anybody, and they can access that on my social media, and it's for everybody to download completely free. That is something that I'm doing because I want to come from a place of service. I want to be the help that I wish that I had had, because there wasn't that available when I was going through cancer in 2017.
I'm processing one of the very important things you're saying, Natalie, is you made the decision to do something different. That is to have a positive mindset.
Yes.
How can our listeners contact you, website or whatever,
Yes,
to gain even more from your life experiences?
for sure. So I am on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can find me at Natalie_life coaching. And you can click on any of those. And in the links in my bio, they have the link then to the Ultimate Cancer Recovery Workbook, which comes with that free bonus guided meditation. And on my social media, I share book recommendations, affirmations, breath work exercises. There is a lot of interactive things as well that people can access on my social media. My website is currently under construction, but it is getting there.
All right, good. Now I'm going to assume, Natalie, you can, in fact, maybe most of your work is done virtually as opposed to being in person with you.
Yes, everything that I do is online. I prefer to have a global practice. And it's interesting, I'm a Brit living in Germany, and most of my clients are in the US and Canada.
Well, you have a global business, and that's just great. But you have a life experience that is inspiring to others. You have overcome, others can overcome.
For sure.
And I'm going to say, Natalie, based on your experience, there's nothing too impossible for our Lord to help you overcome. And you've experienced a lot of that, and you've chosen to surround yourself with positive people.
Exactly. It is so important to acknowledge that there is something bigger in the world, whether it is God, the universe, Mother Earth, whatever it is that you choose. I choose to believe that it is all one, that we are all one and connected with something. And when you acknowledge your own power and your connection to something larger than yourself, and you adopt that attitude of gratitude, when you appreciate the beautiful small things, the laugh of a child, a butterfly floating by, whatever it is, it accesses this inner peace and this well of strength that you didn't know you had. And we all have that within us. We're all born with this ability. It's just over time we forget that we're connected.
Natalie, you've got such a great positive attitude, a great life story. Our listeners are intrigued and inspired by this. I want to thank you on behalf of our listeners for experiencing what you have, passing on the very positive benefits of your learning. You're an inspiration. Thank you for sharing with us. We look forward to following your life journey.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so pleased that I was able to share my story today.
Thank you.
We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life's experiences with you.
The Cooper culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain high retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and DISC personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny. Some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.